All right, folks, you're watching the Cowboys Report presented by BetDSI, the internet's #1 sportsbook. I'm your host, Tom Downey. Let's dive into some live Q&A from you guys watching here on Facebook and on YouTube. If you don't like the questions brought up, blame producer Brett. It's not my fault. Donavan Jackson, what's the latest on Travis Frederick, and how does that affect what we're doing with that unit moving forward? All indications are that Frederick is going to be good to go. He's going to be back for the Cowboys in the preseason, in some of the offseason stuff as well. He'll be good to go. Now, it is definitely worth monitoring, but with Joe Looney under contract, don't expect the Cowboys to invest in an interior offensive lineman. The hope and the expectation is within the Cowboys that Fred Beard is going to be good to go both next year and long term. 30 pick, 1966. What players realistically do the Cowboys have a chance to draft? Well, a lot of them. If you're looking for individual names, you're probably looking at a receiver. I think Andy Isabella. I'd love a Deebo Samuel. All kinds of slot receivers. At tight end, you can cross off Noah Fant, TJ Hawkinson, Irv Smith, which leaves you in the Jay Sternberger, Dawson Knox type of range there. Caden Smith potentially as well. So all those are decent options there. In the end, it's probably easier to go with players they don't want, but stay tuned. We'll have some more draft coverage for you. All right, super chat coming in from Sharpe. He says, what is the sure move to fix this offense and score at least 24 points per game? Great question. I think my hope, at least, is that getting rid of Linehan was that move. Also, getting Travis Frederick back is a big boost there. In terms of actual additions that weren't on the roster on last year's guys you fired, I want another offensive weapon. I don't care if it's a slot receiver. I don't care if it's a tight end. But I think you want to go with one of those two routes. From Sergio Jaime, and he's asking about David Irving's Instagram, because David Irving is kind of, I think, a little bit delusional at this point, says, who's the person that David Irving referred to on his comments? David Irving said he was good to go, and that the Cowboys barred him from coming back. Now, you can make some guesses there. I would venture to say it's probably Jason Garrett. That would be my guess there. In reality, whatever David Irving says, I actually don't believe him. I don't believe him. I don't think he is a reliable source of information. I refuse to accept what he says as fact. It's fun to speculate on. I'm just going to mostly ignore David Irving until the Cowboys re-sign him, which I don't think is going to happen anyway. Next up from Matthew Lee, when is Tyree Jackson getting drafted, the Buffalo quarterback? Good question. I would bet round 4. I don't think he ends up being a top 100 pick, but the arm can be special. The consistency, the accuracy is not there. But as a developmental type, I'm intrigued by him. To be fair, most of those developmental guys don't often end up working out. From Saul Sanity, who would the Cowboys rather keep between Randy Gregory or Taco Charlton, and who has more value in a trade? The answer to your first part of your question, who was inactive at times this year? That's Taco Charlton. Therefore, the Cowboys would rather keep Randy Gregory. In terms of trade value, I don't know how much either one actually has. I would think it's Randy Gregory, even with the suspension worries there, because he's been far more productive than Taco Charlton has been in his brief NFL career. Zachary asks, how do the Cowboys incorporate Sean Lee into the defense in 2019? Well, they might not at all. If they do, it comes back as a backup at a discounted rate. I think he becomes the first linebacker off the bench in almost a player-coach type role like he frankly kind of was this year. I would like to see, it's not really Kris Richard's MO, but I would like to see the Cowboys run more 3-3-5 in passing downs, or in some passing downs, which they've run before. Put Sean Lee kind of the middle linebacker spot, which I know isn't ideal for him, but you can put Jalen at the Sam spot, which Sean Lee doesn't really fit into. From Jeremy on Facebook, any word if we're keeping Cole Beasley? Nothing new on that front. In the end, I would venture to say that you're going to see Cole Beasley get more money and a bigger role, which he very much wants elsewhere from a different NFL team that misses out on, say, Adam Humphries in free agency. From Gregory Neal, if Lil'Jordan Humphrey is on the board in the 3rd, I hope they snag him. I actually do think that Lil'Jordan is available in round 3. I think he's going to be a late 3rd or early 4th round pick. So if the Cowboys don't go receiver in round 2, I think he could be a target for them later on. A bit of a different type of receiver than Andy Isabella, despite both of them being good fits in the slot. From Young Swannte, I hope I got your last name right. How many games will the Cowboys win this year? I'll put it back at 10. I'll put the over-under at 10. I bet the Vegas over-under comes in under, more like maybe 9.5 or even just outright 9. But I don't think you're going to see the Cowboys surpass it by a significant margin. Maybe a little bit better, but remember, the Cowboys won a lot of close games. Historically speaking, that usually means regression. Now, I think that they can avoid that and can again make a run at the NFC East, but it's a tough schedule next year, so I'm not going to overly set the expectations too high and say like 13. I'm setting it more at like 10. Fabian, if Garrett doesn't get an extension, will Richard be promoted to head coach? It's a possibility. I kind of want to see what happens later on in the year, you know? Like, what happens after we get going? How does the season end? Is it a complete and utter disaster? Or does the defense play really, really well? The offense is bad. If so, maybe that makes some sense there. But I don't think it's going to be a surefire thing for Richard. But regardless, if it happens next year and Garrett's gone, I think you'll see Richard get an interview. From T-Dog, what are the chances of Dak taking a discount by signing an extension? Define discount, because sometimes I think you guys have different value systems in general of discount versus the reality discount. If you think that like 20 million's a discount, reset your expectations. If you think like 27's a discount, that's kind of the discount there. And that I think could happen, but in general, I think his absolute floor is 25 million per year over the extension part. But if you sign it now, he can sign a $30 million per year deal, and with that extra last year of his first contract, it actually kind of bounces out more to $25 million. Dimitri, will Dak be the highest paid quarterback in Cowboys history? You better believe it. At least in terms of per year money, he's going to blow everybody else out of the water, because when was the last time the Cowboys had a big name contract? Tony Romo, of course. Now, not necessarily in the first contract, but Dak is going to make more per year than Tony did. You can take it to the books. That's how NFL contracts work. Zach Buchanan, would you take Brown in a straight-up trade for Lawrence? Do you mean Antonio Brown? Absolutely not. Hell no. I'm not doing that. I'm not bringing in Mr. Big Chest and trading away my top defensive player. I'm just not going to do that. It doesn't make sense for the Cowboys. I don't even want to deal with Antonio Brown right now. William Pete, if the Cowboys don't have enough for Earl, then why not just cut Lee to get extra funds? It's not about they can't afford the maximum contract for Earl Thomas. They could pay Earl Thomas $15 million. That's fine. But the idea that the salary cap is a myth is actually a lie in and of itself. At some point, the bill comes due. The Cowboys want to budget. They want to have proper value set for individual players. Earl Thomas at 10, sign him up. Earl Thomas at 15, they're not going to do it even if they cut Sean Lee, because it would impact other players they want to keep. At a certain point, it's an overpay. And the Cowboys' value for Earl Thomas, I don't think is at $15 million. From Matthew Lee, would you trade for a first-round pick? No, I would not. Now, unless there's someone special that falls for some weird reason, I'm just not going to do it. It's too expensive. You have to give up, in reality, your second-round pick this year, your second-round pick next year, and your fourth-round pick. I like volume in my draft picks. I'm not moving up into round 1. Jimmy Turner, will Andy Isabella or Lil'Jordan Humphrey be there in the third or the fourth? Well, we are in Texas Longhorns territory, as you guys can see here. Isabella in round 3? No, I think he's off the board by the time the Cowboys pick for sure in round 3. Probably, I think, within the top 64 picks. Lil'Jordan, I kind of think so. Now, I am curious how he runs. Former halfback, bigger than Isabella. Isabella's going to be faster, though. I like Lil'Jordan as a different option in round 3 or round 4, but I'd prefer Isabella between those two guys. Next up from David, will the Cowboys get a better backup quarterback? I don't think so. The Cowboys' MO tends to be not addressing the quarterback position in terms of depth. They're going to keep drafting young players, signing guys like Cooper Rush and Mike White, but I don't think that they value adding a quarterback at this point. If they don't want to spend money there, they're going to keep going cheap overall with the quarterback spot. From Zach Buchanan again, who do you want with our second-round pick? If not a name, what position? As I get further along, I kind of get my heart set on the wide receiver core. I would love Andy Isabella. My number 1 guy is Deebo Samuel. I don't know if he's going to be there. I would love for him to be an option. If he's there, sign me up. But I don't know if that's the route the Cowboys would actually end up going. In positions, I'm looking at receiver, tight end, safety, and defensive tackle. Hey Cowboys fans, thanks for watching the Cowboys Report. If you haven't already, click right here to subscribe to our channel for all the best Cowboys coverage on the internet. That's news, rumors, highlights, mailbags, film studies, and a whole lot more. And I'm making your lives a little bit easier as well with the next Cowboys Report video right here.